Everyone on Thalkara knew one rule above all others. Do not speak lightly to a Giantess. Words were not just sounds to them. Words were weight. Words were history. Words could bind fate itself. Aaron Vale did not know this. He stood in the great stone courtyard, his boots dusty from travel, his uniform worn thin from too many missions that no one remembered later. He was not a hero. He was not a warrior. He was just a human envoy chosen because he spoke calmly and listened well. That, it seemed, was about to ruin his life. The giantess before him was High Matron Courteous, ruler of the Valley of Standing Stone. She was taller than the towers behind her, her skin like carved granite warmed by the sun. Her eyes were gold, ancient, and sharp enough to weigh souls. Around them, other giants stood silent, their massive stone staffs resting against the ground. The air felt heavy. Even the wind did not dare to move. Aaron cleared his throat. He had practiced this meeting for weeks. He had memorized titles, laws, and gestures. He was supposed to deliver a message of peace, bow respectfully, and leave quickly, but then he saw her. Courteous stood straight, unmoving, carrying the burden of her people like a mountain carries snow. There was exhaustion in her eyes. Not weakness - responsibility. And without thinking, Aaron spoke from the heart. "You stand with great dignity," he said softly. "Your people are fortunate to have a leader like you." The words echoed. Then everything stopped. The giants froze. One of the elders tightened his grip on his staff. Another slowly turned his head, eyes wide. Courteous' fingers loosened around her weapon. The silence grew so deep that Aaron could hear his own heartbeat. It sounded very small. He felt it then, the moment he realized he had made a terrible mistake. Courteous stepped forward. Each step made the ground tremble. But her voice, when she spoke, was calm too calm. "Human," she said. "Do you understand what you have done?" Aaron swallowed. "I offered respect." Her eyes narrowed, studying him not as prey, but as something unfamiliar. "Among my people," she said. "Such words are not casual." The stone drums began to beat slow, deep, ancient. Aaron's mouth went dry. An elder spoke from behind her. "A binding compliment has been spoken." Another added, "Honor has been claimed." Aaron turned, panic rising in his chest. "Wait, please. I didn't mean." Courteous raised one finger. The drums stopped instantly. She knelt. The sound of her knee touching the stone cracked the courtyard. She lowered herself until her massive face was level with Aaron's trembling form. Her breath was warm. Her eyes searched him. "Why did you speak those words?" she asked. Aaron's voice shook, but he answered honestly, "Because it was true." The giants gasped. Courteous did not move for a long time. Then she smiled. Not a cruel smile. Not a joyful one, a sad one. "You are either very brave," she said quietly, "or you do not know our laws." Aaron forced himself to stand straight. Humans had survived worse than fear. "They always had." "Then tell me," he said, "and I will apologize properly." The elders murmured again, low and uneasy. Courteous stood. "You cannot apologize for honor," she said. "Only fulfill it." A cold weight settled in Aaron's stomach. "What does that mean?" Courteous lifted her staff and struck the stone once. "By ancient law," she declared, her voice carrying across the valley. "One who recognizes a giant's spirit must bear witness through action." The elders spoke together now, their voices like grinding stone. "The human is claimed." Aaron's breath caught. Claimed. Arrested. Not punished, something worse. Courteous looked down at him, her expression unreadable. "You will perform your duty," she said. "And through you," she added softly, "our fate will be decided." Aaron realized then that one small, polite sentence spoken with kindness had placed the weight of giants on human shoulders. and the story of humanity was about to be tested. Aaron's knees shook as the words echoed in his mind. You will perform your duty. Duty. That one small word carried more weight than a mountain. More weight than any human could carry. But for a giant, it was not just weight, it was a bond. A law older than memory, older than the rivers that carved the valleys. Aaron tried to protest, his voice small against the canyon of stone giants. I don't understand. I only meant a polite compliment. I did not intend anything. But Courteous did not flinch. She towered above him, every inch of her presence a living declaration of history and law. Intent does not matter, she said. You spoke with honor. Honor demands action. Aaron's stomach tightened. Action? The human law is simple, she explained, her voice calm, but each word struck Aaron like a hammer. A word spoken in recognition of a giant spirit cannot be taken lightly. It binds you, willingly or not, to prove your claim. An elder stepped forward, his stone staff scraping against the courtyard stones. You have recognized our might and our purpose. Now, human, you must serve it. Not as a slave, but as a bearer of responsibility. A witness to what giants cannot endure. Aaron shook his head. I am not. I cannot. Courteous bent slightly, her face softer now, though the golden fire in her eyes remained. Do you see the rift? She asked. Aaron followed her gaze. Far in the distance, a black wound split the valley like a scar on the earth. Smoke hissed from its depths. The wind that rose from it smelled of fire and ash. Trees near its edge had twisted into impossible shapes, their branches clawing at the sky. That, she said, is our burden. Our people cannot enter. We are too heavy. Our presence only feeds its hunger. But you, she looked at him, her gaze piercing. You are light, human, fragile enough to cross where we cannot. And strong enough, perhaps, to face what waits inside. Aaron's hands went cold. You're asking me to walk into that? To die? Courteous knelt, placing one enormous hand near his shoulder, careful not to crush him. We do not ask. The law has chosen. You will go. You will act. And if you succeed, the valley will live. If you fail, her voice softened, you will be remembered, carved into stone. Your name will live with ours forever, a warning and a lesson. Aaron swallowed hard, looking around at the other giants. They were quiet, their eyes heavy with expectation. Some of them had fought wars, carried boulders that would crush a human chest in an instant. And yet now they watched him, trembling and small. As if his courage could tip the balance of their world. He wanted to run. He wanted to say no. He wanted to shrink back into his human insignificance and vanish. But then he looked at Courteous again. Not as a monster. Not as a ruler. But as a leader whose heart carried the weight of 100 lives. And he understood. This was not punishment. This was trust. He squared his shoulders. I will do it, he whispered. The courtyard erupted, not in cheers, but in the heavy sound of stone footsteps, of approval and solemn recognition. Courteous smiled slightly, almost a hint of pride. Then you understand your duty. You will walk where giants fear. You will carry their hope, even though you are small. Aaron looked toward the rift again. The black maw seemed to mock him. Every instinct screamed to run. Every human instinct whispered that he was nothing, and yet, somewhere deep inside, a spark lit, a spark humans had carried for centuries. Through hunger, through war, through disaster, the courage to endure. Even when the odds are impossible, he took a step forward, then another. Then he paused, thinking of what this duty truly meant. Not glory, not reward, not honor in the human sense, but responsibility to another species, to a world far larger than himself. To something far greater than fear, the giants watched silently. Courteous nodded once, her eyes gleaming gold in the fading sunlight. "You are small," she said. "But perhaps that is exactly what is needed. Do not fail, Vale. Not for you, but for all of us." Aaron swallowed again, his throat dry. I will not fail." Even as he spoke, doubt whispered in the back of his mind. Humans were fragile. Humans broke. Humans faltered. But humans also endured. And now, for the first time, Aaron realized that the weight of giants, of their trust, of their history, of their law, was his to bear. And somehow, impossibly, he felt ready. He had no idea what the rift would demand, what dangers awaited him, or whether he would survive. But he knew one thing. Even the smallest human could carry hope. And sometimes, that was more powerful than mountains themselves. Aaron Vale stood at the edge of the rift, staring into its black depths. The air smelled of burning stone and bitter ash. The ground trembled beneath him, tiny but alive, as if the earth itself were warning him to step back. He was small, fragile, human. Every instinct told him to turn around, run back to the valley, and never speak of this duty again. But he could not. Not now. Not after Courteous had trusted him, after the giants had chosen him. He swallowed hard and took the first step. The path was narrow, jagged, and treacherous. Rocks jutted like broken teeth, and sharp winds lashed his face. Every step he took, the rift seemed to mock him, hissing and roaring like a living beast. Aaron's heart pounded. His legs shook. He slipped once, catching himself just in time. The thought that this could be the end, the last step of his life, hit him hard. But then he remembered Courteous' words. "Do not fail, not for you, but for all of us." He forced himself to keep moving. Hours passed. The sun rose, then fell, then rose again. Aaron counted time only by the way his arms ached and his feet burned. Hunger gnawed at him, thirst parched him, and the shadows whispered doubts into his mind. "You are nothing. You cannot survive here. Why did they trust you?" Each whisper made him stumble. Each shadow made him question the impossible task he had accepted. And yet, he walked because humans endure, because humans hope, because humans, though small, can carry the weight of worlds. When he reached the first crossing, a narrow bridge of twisted rock stretching across the rift, Aaron froze. The wind howled like a giant's roar, threatening to knock him into the abyss. He could see the black, boiling smoke below, reaching for him as if it hungered for his fall. Every step was a challenge. Every breath could be his last. He thought of the giants, of Courteous watching silently, of the entire valley depending on him. And something shifted inside. Fear remained, but courage flared brighter. He was small, yes. Fragile, yes. But he was needed. Step by step he crossed the bridge. Each creaking stone was a threat. Each gust of wind could topple him. But he did not look down. He did not falter. He did not stop. Finally, after what felt like days, he reached the other side. His body ached, his clothes were torn, and his skin was scraped and bleeding. Yet he stood. And there it was, the heart of the rift. The anchor stone. It pulsed with dark light, bleeding shadows into the sky. The air was thick, heavy, almost alive. Aaron could feel it pressing against him, testing his courage, his will. He wanted to run. Every instinct screamed to flee. But he could not. Not now. Not after the giants had claimed him, after he had promised himself he would not fail. He knelt before the stone, examining its cracks. It was enormous, impossibly heavy. But Aaron had been chosen for this because he could be small where others could not. He could reach places the giants could never touch. His hands were trembling, but he pressed them onto the stone. Pain shot through his fingers. The shadows clawed at him. He almost screamed. almost gave up. And then he remembered the faces of the valley, the children, the elders, the giants waiting for his return. He remembered Courteous' gaze, full of trust and hope. No, he would not fail. Aaron pressed harder. He used every ounce of strength he had. Sweat burned his eyes. Blood ran down his hands. The stone resisted. But he did not stop. He gritted his teeth. He whispered to himself softly, a mantra of survival and courage. I am small, but I endure. I am fragile, but I persist. I am human, and I will not fail. The stone trembled. Shadows shrieked. The rift roared in fury. And then, slowly, the cracks began to mend. The bleeding dark light receded. The air became lighter. The ground stopped trembling. Aaron collapsed to his knees, exhausted, battered, and shaking. His body screamed at him to stop. But deep inside, a spark of pride burned. He had done it. The duty the giants could not bear. The test, no being heavier than a human could attempt, he had completed. And in that moment, Aaron understood something he had always felt but never known. Humans were small. Humans were fragile. But humans could endure. Humans could face the impossible. Humans could carry hope. He raised his head and looked back toward the valley. The path was long, dangerous, and lonely. But he had walked it. He had survived. And the giants Courteous would know that humanity, even the smallest among them, could rise to a challenge that even titans could not face. For the first time, Aaron smiled. And for the first time, he felt truly, undeniably human and unstoppable. Aaron Vale had survived the first crossing, but survival was only the beginning. The deeper he moved into the rift, the heavier the air became. Smoke curled around him like living fingers, and the ground shifted as though the earth itself were alive, testing his every step. Every muscle in his body ached. His skin was scorched, his hands raw and bleeding from the anchor stone, yet he pressed onward. There was no turning back. The giant's trust weighed on him more than the jagged rocks beneath his feet. Every thought echoed Courteous' words. Do not fail, not for you, but for all of us. The rift was alive with danger. Shadows slithered along the walls, whispering doubts in human tongues he almost understood. The air smelled of sulfur and ash, thick with the scent of despair. He could hear strange groans, deep and echoing, as if the earth were mourning its own wounds. Aaron stumbled, nearly falling into a chasm that yawned below. Panic clawed at him. He gripped a jagged rock, forcing himself to breathe. His mind screamed, "You are too small. You cannot do this." Turn back, but he did not, because humans endure. Humans hope. Humans act when the impossible demands it. Step by step, Aaron moved deeper. Each step tested him physically, but the true trial was the fear gnawing at his heart. The shadows seemed to reach for him, trying to steal his courage, to make him doubt that a human could ever carry the weight of giants. Then he saw it at the heart of the rift. The true source of its corruption, the Shadow Spire, a dark tower of jagged rock, pulsing with black energy. It twisted the air around it. Smoke poured from cracks in its surface like blood from a wound. The closer he approached, the more the shadows hissed, wrapping around his mind, feeding his fear. Aaron fell to his knees. His breath came in ragged gasps. He wanted to collapse, to scream, to give up entirely. But then he remembered the valley, the giants, Courteous' golden eyes watching him, trusting him. If he failed, it was not just himself who would fall. The valley, the people, the future, they all depended on him, and humans. Humans endure. Summoning every ounce of courage, he stood again. The shadows surged at him, whispering lies and threats, trying to make him turn away. But Aaron clenched his fists. He reached into himself, finding the smallest spark of defiance, the tiniest ember of human resilience. I may be small, he said aloud, his voice trembling, "but I will not break. I may be fragile, but I will persist. I am human, and I will endure." The words felt strange in the dark air, but they burned within him. The shadows recoiled slightly, almost as if surprised by such boldness from someone so tiny. Aaron approached the shadow spire. He pressed his hands against its surface, feeling the energy trying to push him away, trying to crush his mind. Pain lanced through his arms, but he forced himself to keep contact. He could feel the darkness twisting, writhing, resisting him, but he did not yield. Hours passed. He felt time stretch and break. The pain was relentless. His body was screaming, his vision blurred, and yet he continued. Sweat mixed with blood, and his fingers shook violently. But Aaron Vale, the small, fragile human chosen by giants, held on. Then, slowly, imperceptibly, the dark energy began to recede. The pulsing black light dimmed. The smoke lightened. The whispers of doubt grew faint. The spire trembled under his touch. Aaron collapsed to the ground, exhausted beyond measure. His chest heaved. His hands were raw. His body ached in ways he had never known possible. And yet, amid the pain, a spark of triumph lit inside him. He had faced the impossible. He had walked where giants could not. He had touched the heart of the rift and survived. And in that moment, he understood something deeply human and profoundly heroic. Size did not determine courage. Strength did not measure valor. Humans, small, fragile, fleeting, could endure what titans could not. Humans could walk through darkness and carry hope to the farthest edges of the world. Aaron looked up toward the opening of the rift. Light was breaking through the smoke, faint but steady. He had completed the first part of his duty. He had proven himself not to the giants, not to the world, but to himself. Somewhere deep in the valley, Courteous waited. Somewhere the giants were watching. And Aaron knew, in his bones, that their faith in him had not been misplaced. He had faced the shadows, the pain, the impossible. And he had survived. Humans endure. Humans hope. Humans dash when called upon, can do what no one else dares. And Aaron Vale, small and fragile, had just begun to prove it. Aaron Vale emerged from the heart of the rift with his body battered, his clothes torn, and his hands bleeding. Every step felt heavier than the last. His legs shook and his lungs burned with every breath. But he kept moving. Every step forward was proof that a human, small, fragile, underestimated, could endure where giants could not. The sky above the valley was pale, the sun dipping low, painting the mountains with gold and crimson. In the distance he saw her, High Matron Courteous. The giantess had not moved from her place atop the tallest ridge, her golden eyes fixed on the rift. She had waited, patient, silent, a sentinel watching over both the valley and the human who dared its shadows. Aaron's chest tightened. He wanted to call out, to rush to her side, to collapse in relief. But he forced himself to walk slowly. He had survived the impossible, but the weight of what came next pressed upon him. When he finally reached the base of the ridge, Courteous descended, her massive feet shaking the earth with each step. Even as she approached, she did not smile. She did not speak. Her eyes, golden and intense, measured him. They looked past the dirt and blood, past the exhaustion, deep into his heart. "You made it," she said finally, her voice calm but heavy with emotion. "You have done what no giant could. You have faced the rift and lived." Aaron sank to his knees, gasping for air, feeling every ounce of pain in his broken body. I did it," he whispered, disbelief in his voice. "I actually did it." Courteous knelt beside him, lowering herself until her eyes were level with his. Her hand hovered near his shoulder, massive and warm, not crushing but reassuring. "You carried a burden that could have crushed even us," she said. "You have shown courage and endurance beyond measure." Aaron shook his head. "It was luck. I was small. I didn't break. I... No, Karasha interrupted, her voice firm. It was not luck. Luck does not move mountains. Luck does not face darkness and carry hope where no one else can. You endured because you chose to. That is the mark of a human. That is your strength. Aaron's eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from the realization of what he had accomplished. For the first time in his life, he understood that being small did not mean being powerless. That being fragile did not mean being weak. The elders appeared behind Karasha, their faces a mixture of awe and respect. They had watched the human walk where giants could not, and they were silent, for silence was the only way to honor such courage. You have fulfilled your duty, Karasha said, rising slightly. But the duty was never just to survive. It was to carry hope, to prove that even the smallest being can change the fate of many. And you have done so, Aaron Vale. You have given us proof of what humans can achieve. Aaron struggled to his feet, his legs trembling. I was just a human, he said, voice cracking. I didn't think I could do any of this. Karasha's eyes softened. And yet you did. You carried what no giant could carry. You showed that strength is not measured by size or might, but by the courage to face the impossible. You are small, Aaron. Fragile. But humans endure where giants hesitate. Humans persist where titans falter. A warmth spread through Aaron's chest. For years, humans had been underestimated, dismissed, thought too weak to matter in a world of giants and monsters. And now, standing before this ancient being, he realized something profound. Humans might be small, but their hearts were boundless. Karasha extended her hand, massive and steady. Come, let us return to the valley. Your people await your story. The giants will remember your courage. And the valley will thrive because a human chose to endure where none else could. Aaron took her hand, feeling its strength, its weight, and the trust it carried. With her guidance, he climbed the ridge, every step reminding him that he was no longer just a human envoy. He was a symbol, a proof, a testament to humanity's resilience. As they reached the summit, the wind blew across the valley, carrying the scent of stone, earth, and life renewed. Aaron looked down at the valley below and realized that this moment, this survival, this triumph was bigger than any one person. It was the story of a species often underestimated, often overlooked. Humans endured. Humans hoped. And humans, even the smallest among them, could walk through shadows and carry the weight of giants. Karasha smiled faintly, the golden light of sunset glinting in her eyes. You have done more than survive, Aaron. You have shown us what humans are capable of. And Aaron Vale, broken, exhausted, but unbroken in spirit, finally understood. He had not only survived, he had proven humanity itself. The valley was quiet when Aaron and Karasha returned. The giants had gathered, their massive forms standing in solemn rows. The elders' eyes were fixed on Aaron, but they said nothing at first. Silence was a form of respect. Silence was awe. Aaron stumbled slightly as he reached the center of the courtyard, exhausted beyond measure. His clothes were torn, his skin scraped and burnt, but he stood tall in the human way, small, yes, but unbowed. Karasha raised her hand. The valley hushed completely, as if even the wind respected the moment. Today, she said, her voice deep and steady, we have witnessed something extraordinary. A human, fragile and small, has carried a burden no giant could bear. Murmurs passed through the crowd. Some giants blinked in disbelief, some shook their heads. Others simply stared, silent and heavy with understanding. Aaron felt a wave of embarrassment. He had only done what he had to do. Survival, courage, endurance, it was instinct. Yet the giant's reaction made him feel larger than he had ever imagined. Karasha continued. He walked into the heart of the rift. He faced shadows that could break minds and crush bodies. And he did not falter. He endured. The elders stepped forward, their staffs tapping the stones in a slow, ceremonial rhythm. One of them spoke, his voice gruff but filled with awe. A human has done what we believed impossible. The law of our people demanded action. But never did we expect such strength from one so small. Aaron's throat tightened. He looked at Karasha, her golden eyes meeting his. And he realized that the weight of this moment was not in the pain he had endured, but in the recognition he had earned. "You have proven something that giants have long forgotten," Karasha said. "Strength is not only in size. Power is not only in might. Courage, endurance, and hope. These are the true measures of worth. Humans possess these in abundance." The elders nodded slowly. "Let it be known," one said, "that from this day forward, humans are not lesser beings in our eyes. They walk among us as equals. They carry potential that even titans cannot match." Aaron could hardly believe what he was hearing. Humans, who were often dismissed as weak and fragile, were now being honored by beings that had lived for centuries. Beings who had moved mountains and shaped the world itself. Karasha stepped closer, her massive form towering but gentle. She lowered herself until her eyes were level with his. "Aaron Vale," she said, her voice carrying across the valley, "you have shown us what it means to be human. You have carried the weight of our world when none else could. And in doing so, you have changed how we see your kind forever." Tears welled in Aaron's eyes. He had always thought of himself as small, ordinary, replaceable. But now, in this moment, he realized that even the smallest human could leave a mark larger than mountains, deeper than valleys, brighter than the sun. He bowed his head, overwhelmed. I only did what I had to," he whispered. Karasha smiled softly. "And yet that is enough. That is everything. Humans endure. Humans hope. And humans inspire even giants." The valley erupted, not in noise, but in the deep, resonant hum of approval. Giant voices, low and proud, filled the air. Children ran forward, curious and wide-eyed, and elders nodded solemnly. Aaron felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of belonging he had never known. He looked around at the towering figures, at the mountains and skies, and understood something profoundly simple. Humans may be small, fragile, and fleeting, but their hearts could carry what no giant could. Karasha placed her hand gently on his shoulder, careful not to crush him. "Your story will be carved into our mountains," she said. "A reminder that courage is not measured in size, but in will. That humans, though small, can endure what titans cannot." Aaron's chest swelled. In that moment, he felt the weight of humanity itself on his shoulders, and he welcomed it. For the first time, he felt truly seen, truly valued, and truly capable. The sun set over the valley, painting the mountains in gold and crimson. Shadows stretched long, but Aaron no longer feared them. He had walked into the darkness and survived. He had carried hope where none could, and he knew, without doubt, that humans, small, fragile, fleeting, were capable of greatness beyond imagining. Today, he had proven it, and the giant, silent, proud, and watching, had seen it too. Humans endure. Humans hope. Humans, when called upon, can carry the weight of worlds. Aaron Vale smiled faintly, exhausted but unbroken. He had not only survived, he had shown what it truly meant to be human. Aaron Vale stood in the heart of the valley, his body bruised, scorched, and exhausted, but his spirit soared higher than the tallest mountains. Around him, the giants had gathered. They were silent at first, their massive forms like statues carved from stone. Yet their presence carried weight that recognized courage, endurance, and honor. Karasha stepped forward, her golden eyes warm and steady. She looked at Aaron not as a fragile human, not as a small envoy, but as a hero, a symbol of what humanity could achieve. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows, and for the first time, Aaron truly felt the scale of what he had done. "You have returned," Courteous said, her voice echoing across the valley, "and in doing so, you have proven a truth that giants have long forgotten. Strength is not measured by size. Courage is not measured by might. Humans, small, fragile humans, can endure where titans cannot. Humans can carry hope where even giants falter." Aaron felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of himself as special. Never thought that a human, like himself, could stand among the mightiest beings of the world. And yet here he was. The elders stepped forward, their stone staffs tapping the ground in a rhythm that felt like the heartbeat of the valley itself. One elder spoke, voice low but powerful. "Let it be known from this day forward, humans are not merely small creatures to be overlooked. They are capable of courage and endurance that even the oldest among us cannot match. They are partners, not lesser beings." A murmur of agreement passed through the giants. Even the youngest, wide-eyed children understood something profound. The human before them had faced the impossible and survived. Not because he was stronger or larger, but because he had will. Aaron looked at Courteous, who lowered herself until her face was level with his. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have carried the duty that giants could not. You have moved what none else could move, the fate of this valley. And in doing so, you have shown the world the true weight of humanity." Aaron's chest swelled. He had endured fear, pain, exhaustion, and doubt. He had crossed the rift, faced the heart of darkness itself, and emerged alive. But it was not the survival that mattered most. It was the recognition that humans, small, fragile, fleeting, were